Welcome to hour number 2, the morning after live right here all across Sports Grid and Sirius XM channel 159. I am Ben Stevens. Yesterday was a huge day in the world of sports, a Grand Slam Monday, all capped off in prime time under the lights up in Queens at Arthur Ashe Stadium for one of the greatest athletes of all time in what potentially could have been her final match before she heads to retirement or evolves into retirement, as Serena Williams would like to say. But retirement will have to wait, says Serena as well. A straight set victory for Serena Williams yesterday in her 2022 U.S. Open opening match against Danka Kovinic. In straight sets, 6-3, 6-3 last night for Serena Williams in front of a sold-out crowd of nearly 24,000 spectators at Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens, where Serena Williams earned her 102nd career victory in Arthur Ashe Stadium last night, the most ever by any player on either side since Arthur Ashe was opened in the late 90s. 366 Grand Slam victories now for Serena as well, the most ever by a women's tennis player. And she was a big favorite in pretty much every category entering her opening round match last night in the 2022 U.S. Open against Kovinic. She was a minus 330, was Serena, outright favorite. Minus 130 even to win with a straight set sweep, which she was able to accomplish, and was laying 4.5 sets in that set spread. She covered that number. It was juiced at minus 128. Serena Williams is more than 40 years old now. Maybe not at the top of her game as she is about to head into retirement, but still profitable in those betting markets. So a straight set victory in round number 1 for Serena Williams to get the 2022 U.S. Open underway against Danka Kovinic. However, awaiting Serena Williams right now is Anett Kontaveit, who is the number 2 overall seed on the women's side. So you advance out of the first round, great. Now you take on the 2 seed in Kontaveit. However, as our associate producer Joe Frizo, a huge tennis buff, has told me, Kontaveit enters the U.S. Open, yes, being the number 2 overall seed for the tournament, but in some of her worst form in recent memory. Kontaveit entering the tournament was 65-1 in the outright market to win the women's title for the number 2 overall seed. That's not great. Iga Swiatek, who is the favorite, continues to be booked as the favorite. She is a heavy favorite in her opening round matchup today as well. And Kontaveit, you can't see her on this list, nor can you see Serena Williams, but they have the same odds currently to win the women's championship at the 2022 U.S. Open, both in the outright market, priced at 45-1. And Kontaveit is only a minus 210 outright favorite for the match coming tomorrow against Serena Williams. Serena Williams, plus money underdog, in what might potentially be her final match in Grand Slam tennis in her tennis career. I think that number is only going to go shorter and shorter as the public starts to sprinkle on Serena Williams as an outright underdog in her second round of the 2022 U.S. Open. Last night was a celebration to start Serena Williams' final run in tennis. We'll see if that run continues up in Queens tomorrow against Anett Kontaveit. As we continue going around the 2022 U.S. Open, a ton of upsets yesterday on the men's side. We'll break down in just a couple of seconds. First, we welcome in quickly our Sports Grid radio audience here, the second hour of the morning after, live all across the grid, Sirius XM channel 159, and all of our terrestrial radio affiliates as well. I am Ben Stevens. A Grand Slam Tuesday. Rafael Nadal gets his 2022 U.S. Open underway later tonight under the lights at Arthur Ashe Stadium. But on the men's side, we saw some top seeds go down in a big way yesterday. Tsitsipas upset. Taylor Fritz upset as well. Tsitsipas was a minus 2,500 favorite in his opening round match yesterday. He's already bounced. Fritz, a heavy favorite as well. He's gone from the 2022 U.S. Open as well. Daniil Medvedev made quick work in his opening round match on his title defense, and he is still booked as the outright favorite at the moment at plus 230, but only $1.50 in front of Rafa, who is plus 380. Carlos Alcaraz gets underway here in just a little bit, noon Eastern time, up in Queens. And Rafael Nadal, a heavy favorite in his opening round match today, minus 10,000 in that outright price as I saw it late last night. As we continue going around the sports landscape here on the morning after on this Tuesday, big news in the world of golf. Of course, the FedEx Cup finale was this past weekend. Rory McIlroy storming back, roaring back, you could say, to win the Tour Championship in his third ever FedEx Cup, a payout of $18 million. However, following the end of the FedEx Cup season, we expected some departures to Live Golf. And we got that list, as you saw there this morning. Highlighted, of course, by the 2022 Open champion, the champion golfer of the year, the world number 2 golfer in Cameron Smith. It had been reported since the Open Championship, now made official he will play in the next Live Golf event in Boston. Joaquin Niemann, another young star. Both golfers in their prime right now, and this is a difference from a lot of the Live golfers that have made the jump so far. Players that maybe are past their prime, at least from a competitive level on the golf course. That is not the case for Cameron Smith and Joaquin Niemann. We'll continue to follow those updates all off-season long in the world of golf. Week number 1 of college football. Marquee matchups and a preview up next.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
In the landscape of college sports, some things remain the same.
College football today.
Of Alabama in winning SEC championship.
It's the island of misfit toys.
Fantasy sports today.
You have to understand that.
Can they survive those first 4 games? They can go 2-2.
Pro football today.
This franchise, they are comical. Now, I'm not making light of the injuries. This is a brutal rash.
In-game live, all access.
You can take the money line.
FanDuel Sportsbook, if you shop around, you can get it at 133. But that's my best bet on the night, Joe. So that's the one I'm going big.
In-game live, prime time.
I'm a bit nostalgic. I'm going with an international, Jason Day and Sergio Garcia.
But boy, you want to give me 8.5 points with a desperate team facing elimination?
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The morning after.
You see their odds to win the division? They will certainly be a playoff team one way or the other, probably hosting in that opening round. What do you give for St. Louis's chances, DRS, of making a deep run come October?
Looks like the Cardinals are playing their best baseball right now. And if we're going to get pitching, particularly from their starting frontline pitchers, anywhere close to what they're doing now, they have a legitimate chance because they have those power arms in the back end that I got to tell you again, that 1 through 9 they run out there.
The Sports Grid Network. The early line.
Also, if you do have union wages, as we like to say, you Major League Baseball teams say, okay, that's fine and good. Rookie ball, yep, that's gone. Single A, that's gone. Lower A, that's gone. To instructional league, that is gone as well. And quite frankly, we don't need single A altogether or double A. We'll just use triple A here, which limits the amount of jobs that some of these Major League Baseball players, should I say minor league baseball players, aspiring to be Major League Baseball players will have.
Only on Sports Grid.
Sports Professor Rick Harrell with your Sports News Minute. M&T Bank Stadium, last preseason game of the year. Do the Ravens do number 3? They won in 2000. They won in 2012. Everybody in Baltimore thinks so. Just signed Lamar Jackson. That's the beauty of the NFL. Monetizing hope. 32 teams on a path to the Super Bowl in the next 2 weeks. We'll see. But what are the 2 real practical improvements and why NFL values have gone up 14%? First of all, the stability of television. $111.8 billion deal through 2032. Can you imagine opening up your mailbox and getting a check for $337 million a year per team? That's a lot. Second, maybe even most important, 11 new states allowing gaming this year that didn't 2 years ago. And they say the bottom line is that 70 to 80% of the people will be able to gamble 3 years from now versus a smaller number now. You add them all up, big revenue for the NFL.
Back right here on the morning after on Sports Grid and Sirius XM channel 159. We are just a few days away from the start of week number 1 of college football. 2 days, in fact, until we see ranked teams in action for the first time this year in CFB. Thursday night is going to be a dandy. The backyard brawl back into our lives for the first time in nearly a decade. A Big Ten opener between Penn State and Purdue. Oklahoma State looks to get back to the Big 12 championship game. And you heard from Connor O'Gara about how prolific Tennessee's offense is going to be this year. Now, college football is a sport unlike any other, even between the best teams in the country. So, for instance, on Saturday, we have 3 ranked matchups. Top 25 team against top 25 team. You would think, just based on those metrics, those games are set to be very competitive, especially if you have 2 teams ranked in the top 5 entering a season, like we do at the Horseshoe in Columbus on Saturday night between Ohio State and Notre Dame. The Buckeyes are ranked number 2 in the country. You might argue with the Fighting Irish being ranked number 5, and maybe it's just for popularity in the publicity between the season opener between the Irish and the Buckeyes, but they're still ranked 5th in the country and have the 9th best odds to win a college football playoff national championship. And please pay attention to that spread. It is now 17.5 in favor of Ohio State. This is a top 5 tilt. The number 2 team in the country against the number 5 team in the country. And the spread is more than 3 scores, 17.5 in favor of Ohio State. This line opened up very early in the offseason because it was the biggest matchup of week number 1 on the full Saturday slate of college football. It was one of the earliest lines we had available. Even then, when it opened, it was a big number, 13 in favor of the Buckeyes. It has only grown and worked in the favor of one way, in favor of Ohio State. Now at 17.5. The Buckeyes are the number 2 team in the country. The Buckeyes have the second best odds to win a national championship. The Buckeyes have the second best price to reach the college football playoff, and no team has better odds of winning their respective conference in the entire country in college football than that of Ohio State at minus 210 to win the Big Ten Conference. Now, Marcus Freeman makes his debut as the head coach for Notre Dame this year. Yes, he coached Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl in their ending game of last year after Brian Kelly departed to Baton Rouge. But this is his true inaugural season as the head man in South Bend. Marcus Freeman played his college football for Ohio State. He knows what it means to be a member of the Buckeyes. And when Marcus Freeman heard about the line and how it's worked in favor of Ohio State yesterday following practice, he said this, 17.5? Is that the number that you said? 17.5 points? We'll use that in the team meeting today. So the point spread now acting as motivation, bulletin board material for Notre Dame in its season opener on the road in Columbus against Ohio State. But there's a reason, in my opinion, the Buckeyes are booked as a 17.5 point favorite. Ohio State was one of the best scoring offenses in the country a season ago. I think Ohio State will continue to be one of the best scoring offenses in the country this upcoming year. C.J. Stroud is the preseason Heisman favorite. He plays quarterback for the Buckeyes. Jackson Smith-Njigba is one of the best wide receivers in the country. Marvin Harrison Jr., yes, the son of that Marvin Harrison, the longtime receiver for the Colts, is on the other side. They had the number 1 wide receiver recruit in the country last year. His name is Emeka Egbuka. He's there as well. Oh, yeah, Travion Henderson, the running back, he's one of the best backs in the country. There is so much talent offensively for Ohio State. This is a Buckeyes team that most likely is going to average at least 40 points per game. So Notre Dame's defense has a tall task on Saturday. Marcus Freeman was the defensive coordinator last year for the Irish. So they keep a little bit of that congruity there in terms of their defensive staff. But here's the difference, not only in the spread for week number 1, but the outlook for these top 5 teams entering 2022. As I said, Ohio State, the second best price to not only reach the college football playoff, but to win the national championship. Minus 280 for the CFP, plus 300 for the title. There's a difference in how the market feels about Notre Dame, however. 60-1 for the Irish to win the national championship. Notre Dame has appeared in 2 of the 8 college football playoffs in its history, but to get there again for a third time, 15-1. That's tied for the 15th best price. Their odds to win the national championship, the 9th best number. That's the tail of the tape for a top 5 tilt on Saturday. The marquee matchup in primetime. Ohio State, once again, a 17.5-point home favorite against Notre Dame. We touched on Georgia and Oregon, another 17.5-point spread earlier on in the show. The Dogs, the number 3 team in the country. The Ducks, ranked 11th here in the preseason AP Top 25. We focused on the Georgia side of things, starting off their national championship defense with Connor O'Gara, because Connor covers the SEC. Now let's focus on where Oregon is, entering this 2022 college football season. The Ducks have the 3rd best price to win the Pac-12 championship right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook. That makes sense for an Oregon team that actually opened up in this offseason as the betting favorites to win the Pac-12. But then this conference got rid of divisions. Oregon had an easier path through the North than that of the former South division in the Pac-12. And now the Ducks have the 3rd best price at 3-1. More than $1 behind USC. The Trojans still the betting favorites at plus 170. 50 cents behind Utah. The Utes at plus 250. Now, there is a path for Oregon at 3-1 to get to the Pac-12 title game. In the early look-ahead lines, Oregon was booked as a favorite the second to last Saturday of the year against Utah, and the Utes are my pick to win the Pac-12 this year. We talked about Utah's tough start to this season in Gainesville, the debut of the Billy Napier era for the Florida Gators. Utah booked as a 2.5-point road favorite, and Oregon is a 17.5-point neutral site underdog, but the game's in Atlanta. It's going to be mostly Georgia fans against the Dogs. That should show you maybe the outlook for Oregon this year in the Pac-12 and what their season stands to look like in 2022. Do you have faith in Road Bo Nix? I certainly do not. There's another top 25 matchup this weekend in college football to start off the full Saturday slate. 3 in fact. 2 versus 5, Ohio State versus Notre Dame. 3 versus 11, Georgia versus Oregon. 19 versus 23, Arkansas, ranked 19th in the country, hosts Cincinnati. Cincinnati, number 23 in the country. Of course, Cincy gets a lot of love, and they should have that public notoriety based on what they were able to accomplish just a season ago. Cincinnati was the first ever Group of 5 team to make the college football playoff. This year, Cincy opens as a 6.5-point underdog against Arkansas. That total at 51.5. Now, the Razorbacks have a win total of just 7, although the juice is on the over this year because Arkansas competes in the SEC West, which is Alabama's division, mixed in with the likes of A&M and Ole Miss, a very competitive division in football. But Arkansas has some optimism, as they should. They were a team that went over that win total of 7 last year under Sam Pittman. Now, here's the outlook for Cincy entering 2022. Can they keep that glass slipper on as a Cinderella team that might compete for a college football playoff spot this year? Well, the odds don't necessarily show that working in the Bearcats' favor. A win total of 9 in the over is heavily juiced at minus 160 for the Bearcats. Now, that's minus 160 for Cincinnati, a number they have gone over in 4 straight years. They've pushed or gone over in 4 straight regular seasons. But their odds for the Bearcats to win the conference, plus 220. Not the favored side in the AAC. That is Houston. And their odds to get back to a college football playoff, 35-1. Remaining a long shot for the Bearcats to go back-to-back in terms of the CFP. From college to pro football, an NFL breakdown up next.
Your heart's racing. The clock's running out. It all comes down to this. We're talking pregame. Pregame. Get locked in with Game Time Decisions. Your hosts, Gabe Morency and Cam Stewart, will get you ready for game time. Everything you need to know before a game goes off the board, with the best slips to back it up. Make your best bet with live odds updates, late breaking news, up-to-the-minute injury reports, and real-time analytics from inside the sportsbooks. All the odds, all the action, from sports wagering insiders and industry pros like Donnie Rightside, Cam Lou, Cousin Sal, the Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow, and more. Get the winning edge every weekday afternoon from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, 3 to 4 Pacific. It's Game Time Decisions. Only on Sports Grid.
You might be the next daily fantasy millionaire. No matter what you watch or where you play, learn from the world's best DFS players. Lineup building tools, expert projections, and advanced stats change the way you play the game. Dominate the competition. DailyRoto.com, the player's choice.
The morning
You
after.
see their odds to win the division? They will certainly be a playoff team one way or the other, probably hosting in that opening round. What do you give for St. Louis's chances, DRS, of making a deep run come October?
Looks like the Cardinals are playing their best baseball right now. And if we're going to get pitching, particularly from their starting frontline pitchers, anywhere close to what they're doing now, they have a legitimate chance because they have those power arms in the back end that I got to tell you again, that 1 through 9 they run out
The
there.
Sports Grid Network. The early line.
It's fair to say that this is the most impressive thing he has been able to do as a member of the Chicago Bears.
It does pique the interest. And also, we can always make jokes on the Chicago Bears because, quite frankly, I don't think they're going to be a very good football team this year. But I have prefaced that, Kevin, by saying it's not going to be Justin Fields' fault. The only fault it's going to be is if they can protect him, and if he feels like he needs to be Superman, does that mean running a little bit more than he should be doing?
Only on Sports Grid.
Nine days away from the start of the 2022 regular season in the National Football League. A big day around the NFL, a difficult day because you have to cut down your roster to just 53 players. But once that is over, the roster is set for the time being. You know the people you are going to go to battle with to start off the regular season. We go to battle to preview the start of the regular season here on this Tuesday, live on the morning after with FanDuel's Chantel Chan. She joins us now for the 2022 NFL preview. Chantel, football is oh so close. Just 9 days away from the season opener between the Rams and the Bills. How excited are you, Chantel, for football in 2022?
I'm counting down the days. I'm thinking just a few more sleeps. Got to get through this. But in the meantime, we're also going to have some college football, so that's going to get me through as well. But I'm excited for the season. We wait all year for the NFL season to start, and it's just around the corner.
And we get news and updates every day throughout the NFL offseason, certainly into training camp and in these preseason months as well. That was the case yesterday in San Francisco. An interesting development. It is Trey Lance's team, Chantel, but the Niners are bringing back officially Jimmy Garoppolo. What did you make of this decision by San Francisco to retain Jimmy Garoppolo, have him on the roster in the QB room for 2022?
Well, what we heard the entire offseason was how the 49ers were trying to shop Jimmy G the entire time. But they weren't hearing back great offers in return. So what do? They take a look at his contract, they re-sign him, they construction the deal, right? They take a look at the deal, they make it a little bit better, and the fact that they can still move him, I know there's a no trade clause, but at the same time, that gives Jimmy G a little bit of an edge of where he wants to go, because in 2023 he'll be able to choose that as well. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to be there for the whole entire season. As you know, it gives them about 2 more months before the trade deadline, and they could actually move him before then. So I think it's kind of a win-win situation for Jimmy G and the 49ers, because Trey Lance, as you know, he is an unproven quarterback. And that's the thing about it. Now you have a guy that is a very good backup. You could argue that Jimmy G could possibly be the best backup in the entire league right now. So if Trey Lance struggles, you could put Jimmy G in there because the locker room loves him. So I think it's a win-win, but not so much for Trey Lance, because in his mind, if he has a stretch where he goes 3 games, that's bad. They could put Jimmy G as a starter in for there. But I mean, if you look at it, it's good for Jimmy G. It's good for the 49ers. But for Trey Lance, of course, I'd be a little bit worried, but it'll be kind of cool to see how mentally tough he is through this time.
Maybe the best backup quarterback, certainly the highest paid backup quarterback in the National Football League now. That is what Jimmy Garoppolo is. And Chantel, I think you provided some very important context. It is not just from this restructuring of the deal that Jimmy G remains a Niner forever. They will still work to shop him and see what the market opens up like after the regular season takes place. Teams are going to have injuries. Teams might not love what they have in the quarterback room. And then that no trade clause can be exempt if Jimmy Garoppolo and the Niners organization agree to those discussions. And it's practical in nature because of that. But the optics of it are very, very interesting, because Trey Lance now enters his 2nd year in the National Football League. And I think you said it very well right there. What if through the first 3, 4, 5, 6 games of this year, the Niners struggle? A team that is not expected to struggle by the odds this year. They have a 9.5 win total. The over has the juice at minus 160. That's almost a virtual lock, Chantel, to be a double-digit win football team in the NFL this year. But what if through the first 5 weeks they start out 1-4 and Trey Lance does not look all that great at the quarterback position? So which do you think is more likely, Chantel? The Niners go over that win total of 9.5 and maybe add up a couple more wins in a very successful season, or they stay under in 2022 as a disappointment in the Bay?
Well, if you asked me this a few months ago when they were shopping around Jimmy G, I would have taken the under, because Trey Lance is unproven. And what we saw from last season is there was some flaws in his game, so he has to get better. But now that Jimmy G is the backup, and I don't think that they would let Trey Lance have a stretch of 4 or 5 bad games, because this is a Niners defense that is really, really solid. You have Bosa, you have a Mosley, you have a Warner. Armstead, of course, dealing with some injuries. Will he be 100%? But this is a D-line that has a lot of depth. And, you know, I was thinking before earlier that they lost K'Wan Williams, but this is a defense that could be argued at one point this season to be one of the best defenses in the entire league, because all the depth that they have on the edge and on this D-line. So I would actually take the over in this one, because now you have a reliable quarterback, a game manager in Jimmy G that can come in. And of course, the guys love him. As I mentioned, the locker room loves him. So I think it's a win-win for the Niners, and I wouldn't be surprised if they hit that over at all this season.
It is going to be fascinating to follow throughout the regular season for the Niners, because when you invest in Trey Lance, like the San Francisco 49ers certainly have, you want to give him time to develop. You want to see if he can be your franchise quarterback moving forward. But if he struggles, your team is too talented elsewhere to just say this year is a wash and we'll let the rookie QB find if he can make his way in the National Football League. We will pay attention to the Niners all season long. And of course, we always pay attention to Tom Brady. Somehow, some way, Chantel, entering his 23rd year in the National Football League, his 45th year now on this earth, he is still picked by his fellow peers as the top player in the National Football League. Number 1 of the NFL top 100. And we see that in the odds as well. Tom Brady at 44 last year, his 22nd year in the NFL with Tampa Bay, led the league in passing attempts, completions, yards, and passing touchdowns, which he has favored Chantel to do again on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Plus 450 is that number. Chantel, can you bet against Tom Brady at this point? Do you believe that Father Time will eventually catch up with Mr. Brady?
I mean, it has to eventually catch up to him, right? You look at last season, he led the league in passing yards, passing touchdowns, but there's a lot going on with Tampa Bay this year. Is their O-line going to be healthy? We know what's going on with Tom Brady right now in the media with all the headlines, and it's a little bit sus in my opinion, but I'm not going to bet against the guy that is labeled the GOAT, because the way that he's played at this age, it's phenomenal. And I don't think you can definitely go against that. But to say that he is the best player in the NFL right now, number one, the players voted it. You got to love that they have that respect for him. But I still think Aaron Donald is the best player in the league.
The third best odds to have the most regular season passing yards once again, but Tom Brady ahead of the young Justin Herbert in terms of regular season passing touchdowns. And Tom Brady still tied for the second best price, Chantel, at 8-1 to win the NFL MVP. The top five, all quarterbacks. A lot of this market, all quarterbacks, because the last 9 winners of the National Football League Most Valuable Player have all played QB. Chantel, is there an area in the MVP odds you think there might be value entering this new season in the NFL?
I definitely do. I actually like a guy that's not even on this list right now. I like Derek Carr at plus 2,500. You look at the Raiders last season, a tumultuous year, John Gruden, Henry Ruggs, they were still able to make the playoffs. What do you do to Derek Carr this offseason? You give him one of the best receivers in the entire league in a Devontae Adams. Last year, Derek Carr threw for under 4,800 yards, had 23 touchdowns. I think he had only about 14 interceptions. And he already has a Darren Waller, a Hunter Renfrow. This is an offense I think is going to be absolutely potent. And I think the Las Vegas Raiders are actually being slept on right now. So I like Derek Carr in his odds. Lots of value there as well.
Lots of value then on Las Vegas in pretty much every market to win the AFC West, to make the playoffs. They're plus 170 right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Josh Allen is the preseason betting favorite to win the NFL MVP, plus 700. He plays for the Buffalo Bills. They're the favorites to win the AFC, the favorites to win the Super Bowl. And the favorites to win the Super Bowl this year will take on the reigning Super Bowl champion, Chantel, in just 9 days in Los Angeles. And it's the Bills, because they're the favorites in everything, booked as the favorites to start off the 2022 NFL regular season, laying 2.5 points in LA against the Rams, a large total at 52.5. Chantel, is it ever too early to look at the lines even 9 days away from the start of the NFL season?
It's never too early, especially when it's a big game like the LA Rams and the Buffalo Bills, because this is what we want to see, right? We want to see the defending champs, who I think are being a little bit slept on. A lot of people are already taking the Bills to win it all, but this is a big game for the Buffalo Bills, because what happened in the last time that we saw them play? Well, it only kind of took 13 seconds to get them up and out of there with the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think this season they're playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and no surprise, they added a Von Miller. And the Bills' defense is going to be solid. The secondary is solid. So I think this is a game that you can look to. I think the over-under is a little bit high, but the Rams at home, you know, it's still going to be a frenzy. They just won the Super Bowl. So I like the Bills to cover that 2.5.
Hang the banner in SoFi with the home underdogs on the first Thursday night of the NFL season. I might be leaning with the dogs, Chantel. Quickly here, Matthew Stafford, of course, the quarterback for the reigning Super Bowl champs in the LA Rams. Josh Allen, as we showed, the preseason favorite to win the NFL MVP. Look at those numbers. Pretty similar in terms of their passing yards and passing touchdowns props for this National Football League year. Chantel, which quarterback would you rather have right now? Josh Allen or Matthew Stafford? Only about 30 seconds left.
Oh, Josh Allen, and also he's a plus 700 as well to have the most passing touchdowns in the league. He's got great targets, Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, McKenzie. I'm rolling with Josh Allen for that one for sure.
Also, look at his rushing yards prop from a season-long perspective. He's gone over that number 3 straight years. Chantel Chan from FanDuel joining us to preview the NFL season. Chantel, thank you so much as always.
Thanks for having me, guys.
More the morning after, up next.
you might be the next daily fantasy millionaire. No matter what you watch or where you play, learn from the world's best DFS players. Lineup building tools, expert projections, and advanced stats change the way you play the game. Dominate the competition. DailyRoto.com, the player's choice.
If you want to pick like a pro, you need to be in the know. The future of sports gaming is now, and we take you inside the lines, breaking down all the action and what it means for your bet slip. Turn down the game and tune into Sports Grid Radio. Other networks talk sports talk, but we walk the walk, right up to the window. Sports Grid Radio.
Listen free on the Sports Grid Radio app, iHeart, or TuneIn, or catch us on Sirius XM Sports Grid Channel 159.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
In the landscape of college sports, some things remain the same.
College
And
football
that is the dominance
today.
of Alabama in winning SEC championship.
It's the island of misfit toys.
Fantasy sports
You
today.
have to understand that.
Can
Whereas
they survive those first four games? If they can go 2-2.
Pro football
This happened to
today.
this franchise, they are comical. Now, I'm not making light of the injuries. This is a brutal rash.
In-game live,
you can take
all
the points,
access.
you can take the money line, and
FanDuel Sportsbook, if you shop around, you can get it at 133. But that's my best bet on the night, Joe. So that's the one I'm going big. I'm gonna-
In-game live, prime time.
Feeling a bit nostalgic. I'm going with an international, Jason Day and Sergio Garcia.
But boy, you want to give me 8.5 points with a desperate team facing elimination?
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The morning after.
Now that preseason has come to a close as we get ready for the regular season when it comes to the weekly handicap of NFL games.
From carrying it over from the preseason to now is that pretty much ignore everything that you saw in the preseason. There's not too much that you should take and carry from there to there. I was out with another guy who said, oh man, he was a Jets fan, and he assured me that they're going to go 500.
The Sports Grid Network. The early line.
How about not only winning 8-3, but over the course of this series, Donnie, putting up 22 runs to just 3 for the Blue Jays. They shut them out twice. They absolutely dog-walked this team over 3 games, who, by the way, entered just being swept by the Rays for 4 and having lost 6, I believe, in a row. What an embarrassment here.
Only on Sports Grid.
Don't you worry, baseball fans. Although football might be the focus moving forward, we have not forgot about Major League Baseball. In the home stretch of this season, just about a month left until we get to October, the final series of the regular season, and then, of course, into playoff baseball. So joining us now here live on this Tuesday on the morning after, it is Sports Grid's MLB Insider, the host of Fantasy Sports Today and Newswire each and every weekday. Craig Mish joins us here on TMA. Craig, as always, we appreciate you taking the time to have some fun here on the morning after.
I love it, Ben. Getting ready for football. Got baseball going on, too. No doubt. This is a great time to be hosting shows like we are right now.
And we are trying to figure out the final couple of spots in the postseason positioning in both leagues. In the NL right now, the Padres battling it out for that third and final National League wild card spot. They hold on by dear life yesterday up in San Francisco in a divisional duel, winning 6-5 over the Giants. The Giants scored 3 runs late in that game, made it much closer than it was early on. Craig, how do you evaluate the Padres at this moment? We know all of the optimism following the Major League Baseball trade deadline, but it hasn't been all that successful on the diamond. So where are the Padres in your mind here entering this final month of the MLB regular season?
Yeah, I mean, Ben, it sure feels a lot like last year with the Padres, unfortunately, where they sort of fell down the stretch. I guess the only difference this season, Ben, is that, in terms of races, I just don't know that it's going to be a difficult road for the Padres to not make the postseason at this point. I mean, it does look very much like the New York Mets and Atlanta Braves are going to occupy a 1-2 spot there, and the Philadelphia Phillies, I think, are in tow. The Central's going to have one team, and then the West is going to have the other, and I don't think the Giants are going to catch the Padres, so the Padres are going to make it. The only question is, what is their psyche going down the stretch? And usually I'm not one of those people who like to play those narratives, but when a team is not playing all that well and has made the kind of moves that they have, you kind of have to wonder how they head going into the postseason. But I've always felt like the deals that they made were really more for the future as opposed to the present. Yes, they would love to win this year, but I really feel like next year is going to be their all-in season. And Ben, they'll get Josh Hader right before next year too. But I just don't have a lot of confidence in them going far in the postseason, but certainly making it at this point. I would be stunned if they didn't.
Yeah, both of the wild card races, although we'll talk about the American League in just a few moments. The NL right now seems rather solidified. The Braves or the Mets, whatever happens in that division, will own the top spot in the wild card. The Phillies have a 1.5 game lead over the Padres for the second spot, and San Diego maintains a 1.5 game advantage over the Brewers for that third and final National League wildcard spot. But Craig, following the trade deadline, after the Juan Soto sweepstakes, the Padres' number to win the NL got to as short as plus 490. Now it is more than $10 back of that at 15-1, tied for the fifth best odds in the National League alongside the Philadelphia Phillies. Outside of the Dodgers, the Mets, and the Braves, Craig, can those other three teams you see there, the Cards, the Phils, and the Padres, make a potential run at a pennant?
No, I don't think so. I always like coming on and, earlier in the season, maybe trying to point out some value at a potential team and trying to dive in a little bit deeper to the numbers to see if we can find something. But at this point, if you're not convinced that it's going to be one of those three teams in the National League that you mentioned, I don't know that I can help you at this point, because the Dodgers, to me, it literally has not mattered who is on their roster. They are just mauling teams left and right. Gonsolin goes down. They start this kid last night. He ends up winning the game. They didn't even play Mookie Betts. And that's no indictment on the Marlins. It's just how good the Dodgers are, just how deep they are, how well coached they are, how they play these platoon splits as well. Now, that being said, can it get into a 7-game series where we get to Game 7, Ben, against the Mets, against the Braves, and something goes haywire? Of course. We see this all the time in Major League Baseball. In fact, the teams that usually win 100 games don't win the World Series. It's usually just whoever gets hot in September and October. But I don't find any value in any of those teams beyond those first three. I just don't.
The Dodgers remain the favorites in the National League at plus 140. And Craig, you almost took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to ask for your takeaways from yesterday's game between the Dodgers and the Marlins, because before the game, Tony Gonsolin was slated to start, but he was put on the 15-day IL by the Dodgers because of some forearm stiffness. He is tied for 16 wins, the most in Major League Baseball. He has a 2.10 ERA. He's really the ace of the Dodgers staff right now, Craig. And as you evaluate LA, like you mentioned there, how do you feel about where they are from a health perspective in that pitching staff entering the postseason? Do they have the legs to keep up over the October run with the Mets potentially and the Braves?
Well, they're going to need Gonsolin back for the postseason, but they certainly do not need him for September. They've just built this astronomical lead and are going to have the best record in Major League Baseball at the end of the season, no matter what. Getting Dustin May back, Ben, was obviously critical for them, and so he just kind of slides in where Gonsolin was, and now Clayton Kershaw is coming back this week after seems like his annual 3 weeks of rest, so he is back as well. Look, losing Walker Buehler, not great, obviously, for them, but they're deep enough. Urias is a fantastic left-handed pitcher. I think he'll be fine for them in the postseason, and I think that they'll figure it out. So for me, yes, I think health-wise they're in a perfect position, and arguably offensively they're as healthy as they possibly can be. So no concerns for me with LA.
So the Dodgers open up a midweek series in Citi Field against the Mets today. They're booked as a minus 142 favorite. Andrew Heaney on the bump for LA. Taijuan Walker gets the start for the New York Mets. A tough stretch for the Mets here because the Atlanta Braves start a series at home against the Colorado Rockies, and Craig, the Braves booked as nearly a $4 favorite right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook. The Mets still hold the lead in the National League East, but can the Braves carve into that advantage given this midweek series? New York hosts the Dodgers, and the Braves host the Rockies.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Atlanta can catch the Mets. I think it's going to happen in one of those series where they play against each other. They're sort of running out of time to do it. But as we saw when Atlanta played New York the last time out, look, they're a formidable opponent. There's no question that it can happen. As far as picking up a ton of games when Atlanta plays Colorado and the Mets play the Dodgers, no, I don't think that that's the case. I think the Mets can hang toe-to-toe with the Dodgers at any time. This isn't the postseason yet. And certainly, Gonsolin's not going to be in that series. I don't know if Kershaw's going to start. Maybe like the final game or Thursday. I think he could be slated to start in that series too. And he probably won't go more than 4 or 5 innings. So yeah, I mean, I think that this is going down right to the wire, Ben. I think it'll be determined in the last week of the season. And I think the Braves can catch the Mets, but I think it's going to happen in those head-to-head matchups they have left. You would have to tell me. I don't know offhand. I think they may play each other 3 or 6 more times. I'm not sure.
I think they only have one more series left against each other, and the Mets, despite what we are seeing here during this week, have the far easier schedule down this home stretch of Major League Baseball. So that 3-game advantage the Mets have in the National League East might seem small, but it could be a pretty solid cushion at the moment. And as you saw, New York, a minus 550 divisional favorite to win the National League East. All right, we flip our attention, Craig, to the American League. As we said, the wild card races seem to start to get solidified at this time of the year, but the Baltimore Orioles are holding on hope. The O's, a road underdog today in Cleveland. The Guardians still the top spot in the American League Central. Craig, the final month of this Major League Baseball regular season, give me the pulse check on Baltimore. Can the O's become a postseason team in this last month?
It's going to be really hard for them to do it because you just kind of get the sense that they've had to push so hard to get to this point. Historically speaking, usually you don't have these epic runs in July, August, and September. It's usually like 1 month. Now, the anomaly to that would be a team like Washington that did this a couple of years ago and then went all the way to the World Series, and they were just, in a similar position, but they didn't have the same talent, much more talent, I would say, than Baltimore had right now. The good news, Ben, is that they get these series against Tampa. They get the series against Toronto, so you can't certainly rule them out, but I do think the playoff teams in the American League are known. I'm very curious, by the way, to see Shane McClanahan pitch tonight against Miami because he has not looked like the same pitcher that he did in the first half of the season. So while I do think Tampa Bay is slated to make it, I do wonder if some head-to-head matchups against Baltimore could be formidable. So we'll just kind of have to see down the stretch, but it's fun to talk about the Orioles being in it, no doubt.
A very tight race right now in the American League wildcard. The Rays have the top spot, 1 game up at the moment. Then it's the Mariners, then it's the Blue Jays. All 3 teams within 1 game of one another. The Orioles begin this series against Cleveland 2 games out at the moment. Still alive, but will need to play some really good baseball in the final 30-plus games of this season. The Guardians, Craig, like we mentioned, the top spot still in the American League Central, but just a 1.5-game lead over the Twins. The Guardians remain the favorites, but who do you think ultimately wins the American League Central race?
Yeah, the story is the White Sox not being there. That is sort of one of the more disappointing teams in all of Major League Baseball this season. I think that they're going to make severe changes, Ben, in the offseason to that team. Look, the Twins all of a sudden got hot again, Ben. I thought that this was it. Like, they had lost a bunch in a row. Houston just came to town and just wiped the floor with them. But it seems like the Twins are going to hang in there. Why is nobody talking about Cleveland like they are Baltimore, with everybody rooting for the Orioles? Cleveland has like the lowest payroll in Major League Baseball, sort of an incredible deal. I think Cleveland does hang on. I do think so. And the reason why I think so is because Minnesota just showed a little bit of a problem with their armor, losing a bunch of games in a row. Now, they've made those games back up, I believe, winning 4 in a row. So that's definitely a good sign for them. But I just don't think that they're going to catch Cleveland. I think that in the end, those head-to-head matchups will go Cleveland's way. They have the pitching, and they certainly have been doing it in a way that is very surprising. And so congrats to that organization, by the way. Phenomenal job for them this year.
Absolutely so. One of the youngest rosters, one of the youngest clubhouses in all of Major League Baseball as well. Minnesota and Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken, Craig, still 8 games remaining between those 2 clubs the rest of this way in Major League Baseball. So the Guardians right now, a 1.5-game lead, minus 160 to win the division. Like Craig mentioned, the Twins have won 4 straight. The White Sox have lost 4 straight. Chicago entered this year at minus 210 to win the American League Central, the best odds of any team to win any division in the American League. It has been a severe disappointment for Chicago 5 games back of Cleveland at the moment. So, Craig, between Cleveland and Minnesota, whoever ends up winning the American League Central, do you think either of those teams can make any noise in the postseason?
I think Cleveland, Ben, can win a series. Yes, I do. I definitely do. They have enough pitching, and that's what it's going to come down to. I don't think if Minnesota wins the division that they can. I don't think their pitching in particular is strong enough, but Cleveland's is. I don't see them as a World Series team, but again, it wouldn't shock me to see them win their first round series at all. Houston to me is the only team that if you said to me, give me, as close to a guarantee of winning a first round series or whenever Houston ends up playing in their series, that's the only team that I would say for sure. Everybody else can be beat.
The Stros right now, the favorites at plus 155. The Yankees only 45 cents behind, but they have lost 3 straight games against the A's and the Angels. Craig, quickly here, how concerned are you about the Pinstripes entering October?
Yeah, they're not going to win the World Series. They're probably not going to win the pennant. It's the same story every year. They're built for the park, and they match teams in the regular season, and then they're going to get to the postseason, and they're going to face off against Verlander and Framber Valdez, and there's going to be a lot of ground balls, and they're going to lose 3-1. I mean, they have to change their recipe, making more plans for the postseason as opposed to the regular season. Hard for me to say when a team's going to win 95, 100 games, but I think they got a good shot to get the ALCS. I do not see them beating Houston at all. No chance.
And right now, the Astros have the advantage in the win-loss record in the American League standings. They would certainly have home field advantage in a potential ALCS against the Yankees. Craig Mish, the host of Fantasy Sports Today. It starts in about 5 minutes. So, Craig, we'll let you go and get ready for that show. We round out the morning after. Up next here on Sports Grid. Stay with us.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
In the landscape of college sports, some things remain the same.
College football today.
Of Alabama in winning SEC championship.
It's the island of misfit toys.
Fantasy sports today.
You have to understand that.
Can they survive those first 4 games? They can go 2-2.
Pro football today.
This franchise, they are comical. Now, I'm not making light of the injuries. This is a brutal rash.
In-game live all access.
You can take the money line.
And the sports book, if you shop around, you can get it at 133. But that's my best bet on the night, Joe. So that's the one I'm going big.
In-game live, prime time.
I'm a bit nostalgic. I'm going with an international, Jason Day and Sergio Garcia.
But boy, you want to give me 8.5 points with a desperate team facing elimination?
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The morning after.
You see their odds to win the division? They will certainly be a playoff team one way or the other, probably hosting in that opening round. What do you give for St. Louis's chances, DRS, of making a deep run come October?
Looks like the Cardinals are playing their best baseball right now. And if we're going to get pitching, particularly from their starting frontline pitchers, anywhere close to what they're doing now, they have a legitimate chance because they have those power arms in the back end that I got to tell you again, that 1 through 9 they run out there.
The Sports Grid Network. The early line.
Also, if you do have union wages, as we like to say, do Major League Baseball teams say, okay, that's fine and good. Rookie ball, yep, that's gone. Single A, that's gone. Lower A, that's gone. To instructional league, that is gone as well. And quite frankly, we don't need single A altogether or double A. We'll just use triple A here, which limits the amount of jobs that some of these Major League Baseball players, should I say minor league baseball players, aspiring to be Major League Baseball players will have.
Only on Sports Grid.
Sports Professor Rick Harrell with your Sports News Minute. M&T Bank Stadium, last preseason game of the year. Do the Ravens do number 3? They won in 2000. They won in 2012. Everybody in Baltimore thinks so. Just signed Lamar Jackson. That's the beauty of the NFL, monetizing hope. 32 teams on a path to the Super Bowl in the next 2 weeks. We'll see. But what are the 2 real practical improvements and why NFL values have gone up 14%? First of all, the stability of television. $111.8 billion deal through 2032. Can you imagine opening up your mailbox and getting a check for $337 million a year per team? That's a lot. Second, maybe even most important, 11 new states allowing gaming this year that didn't 2 years ago. And they say the bottom line is that 70 to 80% of the people will be able to gamble 3 years from now versus a smaller number now. You add them all up, big revenue for the NFL.
We close out our 2 hours together here, live on the morning after on this Tuesday on Sports Grid. What a fun Tuesday it has been. We bring you up until 11 a.m. Eastern Time each and every weekday. And to close out each and every show, I give you a best bet. But honestly, a lot of times I'm busy. I'm not handicapping things as closely as I should. So I don't ever want to lead you astray. I don't want to say, here's my best bet, bet it, back it, because it's going to hit when I haven't done all the homework that is necessary to truly lead you in the way to profits when it comes to college football, the NFL, college basketball, the NBA postseason, WNBA playoffs. I'm in there. I'm in there. You know that you can trust my word. Sometimes for the daily grind of Major League Baseball, the 162, I'm in there as well. And sometimes you need a little help from your friends here on the morning after. And that's what we have when you have a great cast and crew. Our executive producer, Alex Fasano. Our producer each and every morning, John Shames. Our associate producer today, Joe Frizo. A huge tennis buff, and, of course, our graphics producer, Jesse Metzger. All technical director, Hayden Walter there with LTN in Kansas City. The whole team comes together for squad plays at times. And that's what we have today at the 2022 U.S. Open. The opening round, not Serena, but Venus Williams. That's how we close out the show. Before we say farewell, before we say goodbye, it's time for a U.S. Open best bet. It is time for bye, bye, bye. I mentioned him by name. He helped us get through the tennis segment to open up hour number 2, and we close the show with his expertise and insight as well. Our associate producer, Joe Frizo. He says to me, Ben, the best bet today is simple. It's Venus Williams, a plus 300 money line underdog outright against Allison Van Uytvanck, who is a minus 390 favorite. The opening round for Venus Williams, riding the wave of Serena's highlights last night. And all of that enthusiasm, and Allison Van Uytvanck, as Joe tells me, maybe not playing her best tennis at the moment, ripe for the upset. We go with the underdog in Venus Williams, playing in her 25th U.S. Open. Sometimes you trust your smart friends, and the stat man, the tennis man, Joe Frizo, is that. The morning after, each and every weekday, live right here on Sports Grid at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm Ben Stevens. We'll talk tomorrow.